morning, Jerry in California. Jerry would like to know, is Sindile close enough to an escape tree if any predators arrived? Most definitely. We can show you, if we pan off to the left here slightly, it doesn't look like much, but there's a little russet bush willow, which is very close, almost right in front of us there. And then there's also a nice bigger knobthorn with a bit, if you had a bit more time, off to the right, a nice big knobthorn that he could also possibly escape, depending on the direction of said predators that were moving in. But even though he's fast asleep there, his ears are always moving, and he is conscious of what is happening around him and listening carefully. Hi, Christy from Oklahoma. Christy would like to know, would he ever actually go hunting with his mother? He'd probably try if he shouted at. Sometimes, and it also again depends completely on the individual leopards. Some female leopards will take their offspring hunting with them, and then as they go into that sort of final moments of the stalk, they will sort of give them a vocal command that tells them to stay put. But so far we haven't seen Shadow do that, and that's just different leopards do different things. We cannot put a general rule on all leopards, doing the same thing. Morning, Georgian in Illinois. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari. We're sitting here with Sindile, a young male leopard of about 8.5 months now. Georgian would like to know, at what age are leopards considered sub-adults? Excuse me. Well, I would probably guess when they are independent from their parent, and that, as I said, depends on the individual leopard. They can be independent at as young as 8 months, 9 months old, but generally with male leopards it's about 22 months, and with female leopards a little bit less, probably 16 months, between 14 and 16 months, just depending on the individual. And they reach sexual maturity at about 2.5 to 4 years old, depending on the individual, and that is probably when you could start considering them an adult, even a young adult. So 2.5 to 4 years old. Well, very, very big welcome to a new viewer named Gemma. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari with Wild Earth and National Geographic SafariLive. Gemma just saying thanks for a spotty cat welcome on her first drive. Well, thanks very much, Gemma. I hope you join us for the Sunset Safari as well. Morning, Ginny from Dallas. Ginny would like to know, if a female leopard mates with 4 different males, do each of the male leopards think that it is their cub? That's the idea, Ginny. It's to confuse them. Any male leopard that might possibly wander into her home range or territory, she will try and mate with, and even sometimes under false estrus, and that is to try convince them that if they do come across cubs of hers in her home range, that they are the father. So that's why it's very difficult to determine who the father of leopard cubs are. We can always have an idea, and in a lot of cases it is the dominant male of the area, but in a lot of cases it's not. And the only way to actually tell for sure would be to take genetic samples from each of the males she mated with and from the cub, and then compare that way, and that's the only way to be sure about who a leopard's dad really is. Good morning, Heidi from Zurich. Heidi would like to know how many leopards we have in this region. Heidi, we're quite lucky in this region. We have quite a lot of leopards, but also we have a lot of habituated leopards. Habituated is not to get confused with tame. They are still very much wild animals. They are just used to the presence of vehicles. That is habituated. Heidi, let me just work this out. So, in terms of leopards, we see regularly on the female front. The two most regular leopards we see are Karula and Shadow. Shadow is Karula's daughter, and this is her cub. So that's 3. Shadow, Karula, Sindile. We have a dominant male in this area named Tingana, which we see quite regularly. Then across from Juma, we have another dominant male called Mvula, which we see quite regularly. And up until recently, we used to see Karula's 2 young males, who are about 28 months old now, Quarantine and Kunuma, quite regularly. There's an update on them. They have been seen just to the south of us. Actually yesterday and last night, Sean saw Kunuma in Little Gowrie, which is the property directly south of Juma. So they are still within the vicinity, so we're on 7 now. And then we saw another young female leopard, which was the first time for me seeing it recently, right on our eastern boundary, and I think that name was Shavula. And so that's 7. And then another female we have seen here is, what was her name? Kwatile, but she was moving out of territory to mate with Mvula. But I have seen her again since then at the southern end of the Arathusa airstrip. And then I think Scott's seen Bahuti once. So there's a possibility of about 10 different individuals that we can see, but I would say that we regularly see at the moment is... Actually, at the moment, we're not even seeing Karula very much, so I would say Shadow, Sindile, Tingana, and Mvula at the moment are the most common leopards we see. So that's 4 that we see very regularly, and that's just been for the last month or so. And that can change very quickly, and we might start seeing other leopards as well. It's a comfy cat. Well, we're going to do the same as Sindile. We're going to get comfy where we're sitting right here. So the general consensus is that everyone would like us to stay a bit longer, but there's also been some requests to go check the hyena den. But this is the wonderful thing about working in the team, and we've just decided we'll send Commander Bond to check the hyena den. So James is going to go check the hyena den now, so hopefully you guys get some action around there, and we'll stay right here doing the same as Sindile, enjoying the morning sunlight, and we'll be back with you a little later in drive.
Welcome back, everyone, to Jiga. Scott is just focusing in there on this bank of clouds. Oh, that noise you can hear is the crowned lapwings that have just been attacked by a gabbard goshawk. There he is. He's coming in now. Yeah, it's very difficult to follow. And he's a little sort of predatory accipiter that will come and take birds off the ground or out of trees. He's like a sort of hawk, if you like. But what Scott was focusing on there is this building bank of cloud, which since you last saw us only about 10 minutes ago, has built up enormously. So there's a huge front coming through here. My parents, who live down in the Eastern Cape, have been shivering cold and rain for the last 3 days, and I think that's what we're catching the end of now. We're going to head off towards the hyena den, where we can perhaps pick up on some old scavengers basking in the sun. It'd be nice, I think, if Brent stays with the leopard cub for now, just in case he moves and does something interesting. It's not going to be a hot day, so it might be worth one of us just hanging around him, and then the other driving about and exploring and seeing what else we can find.
Are able to roam and fulfill out their natural obligations. We've spent quite a lot of this morning tracking this young male in the beginning, and since he's been found, we've been sitting here. So we are live. You are seeing this male leopard at the exact same time as we are. We also are interactive, so you can ask us questions about this leopard or about the bush that surrounds us, and you can do that by emailing questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. It has been a bitterly cold morning, and the sun seems to have disappeared as this cold front is moving on. The sun was so nice earlier, I actually took off my jacket, but I didn't last very long before I popped it straight back on. Oh, a little yawn. You can see he looks a little bit less comfortable now that the sun's disappeared, which might prompt him to move, you never know. But he will definitely stay in this area. He's been left here by his mother while his mother's gone out hunting, and she could return in the next 10 minutes. She could return in 2 days' time. And so that is quite common behavior for leopards, to leave the youngsters while they are out hunting, because at this age he's more of a hindrance than a help. Trying to get that comfy spot. Hi Lulu, welcome on Sunrise Safari. Lulu would like to know, can he sleep in trees? Most definitely, Lulu, but a lot of leopards prefer to sleep on the ground. It's more comfortable. They will only generally sleep in a tree if they have a kill in the tree, or if they're feeling pressure from other predators like hyenas and lions or wild dogs. Hi, Dear from Miami. Dear would like to know, in domestic cats, it is possible for a female cat to be impregnated by two different males and have kittens in the same litter from different individuals. And she would like to know if this is possible in the bigger cats. As far as I know, that doesn't happen in leopard, but I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. But in lions, it does happen. You can have different fathers in the same litter. But I'm not 100% sure on leopards. I'll just have a quick look in my mammal Bible. But as far as I know, it is not a thing that happens in leopards. So I don't have anything in my big book. So maybe you guys can check for me. Is it possible for a leopard offspring to have two different fathers in the same litter? You can send your answers to questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So apparently you guys are getting some wonderful screenshots. I'm very happy. It has been quite a beautiful sighting, especially a little bit earlier when we had that wonderful morning light. So yeah, there's been a bit of banter in the Twitter sphere regarding a little competition. James, Commander Bond, Henry, and myself had a few days ago. We had a bird competition to see which vehicle could identify the most bird species during a drive. And when we mean identify, we had to actually be able to show them on camera so you guys could actually get a good look at them, not us identifying calls and whatnot. We actually had to physically show the birds on camera, all stretching. And at the end of that, I won, of course, thank you. But James came a bit short, and we happened to be very close by towards the end of drive. So we decided we should gloat a little bit, and as James described, I sat in the vehicle next to him smiling like a Cheshire cat. James then decided he wasn't going to be able to cook breakfast for me that morning, or even stomach his own breakfast, and so people are wondering whether he did cook breakfast. He didn't cook breakfast. James has very similar eating habits to the birds, and he tends to eat seeds and whatnot for breakfast, whereas I lean far towards a good solid fry up. But he did cook us dinner a night or two ago, and fortunately there was no bark in the dinner. I think that is solely because he had to cook for all of us. If it just been me, I would have been far more cautious. I think he might have come up with something a bit worse than bark. There's lots of trees here that are natural laxatives, and James does know his trees very well, so I do keep an eye on what he gives me. Gemma, thanks again for the question. Gemma is one of our new viewers, so always exciting to have new viewers. We love having new viewers as much as we love all our old viewers, our regulars. Gemma would like to know, with this cold front coming in, is it possibly going to bring some rain, and how much water is around? Gemma, it's unlikely, looking at this cold front, that it's going to bring any rain. We are very much a summer rainfall area. Not to say that we don't occasionally get the odd winter rain, but I don't think this is going to bring any rain. It's quite high, and I don't feel that much moisture in the air. But in terms of water, the water is drying up quite quickly. We are sort of, what are we now? June. So we're in the middle of our dry season, and it's going to keep getting drier from now. And quite a lot of the water is going to dry up. And from a game viewing point of view, that's quite good for us, because it makes the animals far more centralized on the remaining water points. So, and also that forces a lot of the prey species to drink there. So the predators also gravitate towards the remaining water, which from a pure game viewing point of view is wonderful. It makes the animals a lot easier for us to find. But I don't think there's going to be any rain. But thanks for the question. So this young leopard is still a very much flat cat, so we're going to cross over to Commander Bond, see what he's been up to, and we'll be back with you a little bit later.
Welcome back to Giga, everyone. We have checked another 2 places where the hyenas might be. They were not there. So we've come now to the waterhole, Gari waterhole, to see if we can't find some form of mammal life. We did see some monkeys running across the end of the dam wall, so we're going to go and see if we can see them. There was also apparently one of our observant zoomies saw some nyala, but they seem to have disappeared into the bush. Selfish things are the nyala. The monkeys were just at the end of the wall here. I find them tremendously entertaining to watch, so we'll see if we can't find them. There goes the monkey. There's a little monkey. Oh, he's going at such speed. Hang on a sec. I think he's a little one that got left behind. There we go. Little chap in the knob thorn here. Shall I go back, Scott? That's perfect. There we go. They're sitting in the knob thorn tree now. I just cannot imagine how they climb a tree like this. I mean, for us to put our hands, I mean, the trunks are not that unsmooth, I suppose, but the thorns that we'd get caught in if we tried to climb them. So, while we're looking at these monkeys, I just want to tell you and apologize for our technical difficulties. Scott is normally an extremely competent cameraman, but he's currently looking at a screen that looks as if it's taken an LSD trip. So he's struggling to focus and zooming quite quickly because of that. Sorry about that. Now, the vervet monkey is one of only 2 monkey species we get in South Africa, the other being something called a Somango monkey, which tends to live more in forested areas than it does in the savannah. And in terms of primates, we also have the galagos or bush babies, and that's it for Southern Africa. But there are far more monkeys as we move up into East Africa with all the colobus monkeys and various others, and the mangabes, I think they're in Ethiopia, which are like baboons. Baboons, of course, we have here too. And a whole lot more coming here. And then, of course, into the rainforest, we have our closest relatives, the chimpanzees, the bonobos, and the great gorillas. And these vervets live in sort of very closely knit troops, dominated by a big male. And the babies will find that it's almost like watching children or teenagers at a school when you look at them. They establish a very definite social hierarchy that's based quite largely on bullying and physical prowess. But there is an element of sort of thoughtful manipulation about it, not quite like it is with the chimpanzees, but you can sort of see, if you watch them closely enough, you can see the machinations of their social thinking. Quite similar to a baboon troop in many ways. And they easily become a menace in tourism if people start to feed them. So they're very afraid of people as long as we stop feeding them. That's beautiful. We got a lovely question from Ramey, who was on drive with Scott the other day when he found a single baboon on quarantine clearings. Ramey, that baboon hasn't been seen again, as far as I'm aware. Probably a young male. Scott, was it a male?
Yeah.
So a young male that has been excluded from his troop because he's probably got to the age where he needs to go and find another troop. So he will now go and find another troop and hang on the fringes of it until he becomes tolerated, and then he will join that troop, and with any luck for him, he'll become a big, strong baboon one day and perhaps dominate the troop. These monkeys are very peaceful, and you can see them now starting to do a bit of allo grooming, helping each other. In fact, I think she's suckling. Is she suckling, maybe?
I can't see anything. I can't even see if I'm in focus.
All Scott can see is psychedelic colours, which of course these monkeys are not. No, that's very sweet. They're just sort of sitting there, huddling in against the cold, on a branch that you and I wouldn't touch with our hands, let alone put our soft bottoms on. So they've been having their breakfast. The mother is the female. He's definitely suckling there. That's wonderful. It's a bit big for that, though. Often spend time with monkeys like this, you know. Especially from the lodges, you know, we used to see them in the camps all the time, and they became a total menace because people, despite endless instructions not to feed them, would hand them bits of muffin or biscuit or eggs or fruit or whatever it was, and suddenly find themselves with 2 neat puncture marks in their hands. But out here, where that doesn't happen, they really are very fascinating to watch, and it's so interesting to me how the closer you get to human beings, so the closer you get to the chimpanzee, the more like human beings they actually behave. They're tremendously fearful of us until they learn that we're slower than them, not quite as strong as them, and especially when they learn that we're actually quite afraid of them, then they become quite menacing. The vervet monkey occurs almost throughout South Africa, except in the desert regions. And in Durban, for example, which is a major city on the east coast of South Africa, they occur right into the suburbs. So we're just about to cross over back to the inimitable and excitable Brent Leo Smith. Thank you very much for being with us today. It's been, I think, an absolutely beautiful drive. A chilly time. Chilly drive. We're still dressed in our winter woolies, Scott and I. And those wonderful elephants in that golden dawn light were just really spectacular to see. We've just had some great scenery and some great peace, and it's been a real privilege answering your questions and having your comments. So thank you very much for them. We're going to cross over to Brent for the last little while, and you can enjoy that sleeping leopard and his golden pelage, while Scott and I make our way home for a bit of breakfast. I believe Brent was insulting my breakfast the other day. He said that I didn't cook him breakfast. I did offer him some of my seeds and nuts and goji berry mix, but that he turned his nose up to it, I feel, is his problem. So I'm going to ask him to do better today. So we'll cross over to him. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Scott on the camera, Nikki and Eugene in the control room, and we'll see you later this afternoon.
Welcome back, everyone. We've tried to reposition to get a slightly better view of this flat cat, and all we're getting is an ear, and that's really cool because we can actually see how that ear moves now. So it just zoomed, it sort of panned around to listen to that rattling testicular, and obviously he's conscious of all the different noises around him. There you see it move, working like a sort of radar dish, picking up different sounds. Let's see if we move a little bit forward, maybe we can see a bit more of his face. So, been sitting up for the last few minutes to drive. Thanks very much, Sindile. Very kind of you. It's been a wonderful morning. Nice tracking in that really fresh early morning. Nice with the dust. The tracks are standing out quite nicely. And we've been lucky enough to spend the majority of the morning with this wonderful young male leopard, Sindile. And he hasn't done much, sat on a termite mound for the whole time we've been here. But still wonderful to be able to spend as much time as we do with these animals. Phil and myself have thoroughly enjoyed being out, and I know you guys would have had fun with James and Scott. And yes, I hear James was chatting about his bird seed. I'm afraid I'm going to leave the bird seed to James. I'm definitely going to go for more of the bacon and egg for breakfast, especially on a cold morning like this. And it's been great having you guys on the Sunrise Safari. It's been an absolute privilege to be able to share our love and passion for the African wildlife with you. So I'm going to say goodbye, and then for the last little bit we'll go back onto the young leopard, because I'm sure you'd much rather look at him than at me. So guys, thanks very much. Have a wonderful day or morning or evening wherever you are in the world, and hopefully you join us for the sunset safari, and we'll be out hopefully on the tracks of big cats again. I'm pretty sure I'm going to come have a look again for this young guy. Maybe Shadow has come back. So for the last few seconds we're going to have a look at that young male leopard sitting on the termite mound.